Hi, I'm Mike Baker. This is National Arts, and we are on Broadway. Baroness Orczy's novel, The Scarlet Pimpernel, has been brought to life in the Tony-nominated Broadway adaptation of the same name, with book and lyrics by Nan Knighton and music by Frank Wildhorn. The musical is set during France's reign of terror and features the heroics of Percy, known to his comrades as the Scarlet Pimpernel. Percy and his men overcome insurmountable odds to foil Robespierre and his henchmen's efforts to subjugate the French citizenry, and in so doing save some of France's more notable figures from the guillotine.
Never hold back your step for a moment. Never doubt that your courage will grow. Hold your head even higher and into the fire we go.
Doug, when last I saw you, you were in another version of the Scarlet Pimpernel. This is the first time in the history of Broadway that a show has closed, reformed itself, and then reopened in the same year, true?
To have the resources, coupled with hindsight, of a year's play, to interview new directors, bring in a gentleman who has a completely different frame of reference. His background was dance. And to have him go at it and give him carte blanche to change what he wanted. I shouldn't say carte blanche. I don't know if they had bounded him in any way, but he certainly had the resources. If he needed money, they had money to give to him. And then the money to market the new version. It's been a real experience as an actor, particularly during that brief span of time where the two shows overlapped, and I was rehearsing one during the day, the new version, and performing a different one at night with a different trio of actors, myself being part of that triangle. Fascinating.
You know, the show's just more dangerous.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's true.
And because of the darker overtones in the second act, it becomes more of an epic.
That's interesting.
And I think its staying power is greater.
That's good.
Less entertaining,
Yeah.
but for the most part.
In the comedic sense, less entertaining.
Right.
You don't see, I think what's nice is you don't see Douglas bursting out of the play. You don't see the actor riffing, which is nice. The play more securely rests on this square rather than a peak, which was me to a degree. But now there are, structurally, the play's been structured so that the Marguerite character is stronger. You see her in more 3 dimensions. Chauvelin's more interesting. My character is more fully developed. And the 4th peg of that square, I think, is the style, the director, who's imposed this really strong sense of style and pace so the thing flows. I appreciate it, and I can certainly understand them wanting to do that. It certainly makes my job easier and more fun. But what's great for me as a classically trained actor is you get to see the dark side, the frail side of the character. You see him angry. You see him mean-spirited to his wife, who he feels has betrayed him. You see him in a state of collapse or failure. Yes. You know, what am I going to do?
And we see that in prayer, don't we? It's
prayer?
not just a prayer that somehow you'll come through this, but it's a prayer to God to give you the strength to overcome this tremendous loss.
I like it. I like it. I wasn't sure how I'd like it, but now I think it's sort of fundamental. And a lot of people haven't liked it. When we were talking about cutting, and I really stood fast, I said, I can't make the transition into this plot without that song. That's sort of, it's a very active piece. Also comes to mind is the cellar scene with the Bounders. When Percy sort of goes into a collapse, I can't go on. The odds are just too great. I can't pull this off. And the guys sort of find their own spines and their backbones, yes. And they say, come on, we'll carry you now. And I love that. I really love that, because it's a journey about what is too much as a person. When do you stand up and say, okay, I'm going to do something where I have everything to lose and nothing to gain personally? When do you stand up and say, okay, I'm going to go out on a line for this person, out on a limb? And that's a fascinating story for me.
Has she been there all along? Was I too far gone to know? What a fool I must have been, for how could I pull her in when I've never let her go?
Your judgment has been compromised, and I get the feeling the way you portray him that he's intuitive. He rarely makes those kind of judgment mistakes, and this is particularly dashing.
It's interesting. Is he intuitive? I think he is intuitive. He finds out that he is intuitive. I don't know that I thought about that ahead of time, but then again, you wouldn't really say that about yourself. If I am Percy, I wouldn't say, oh, I'm intuitive. But he is, and he makes a terrible mistake, which turns out that he hasn't made a mistake in the end. But what it does is it makes you call into question everything. It's that moment when you say, oh my God, how could I have been so wrong? And you have to start backtracking your whole history with this person and say, was that person the evil person then? Or when did I see, you know, where was I wrong? When did I make the mistake? Yeah, it's great. It's fun to do every night.
There is only one perfect storybook ending. That is the end of pretending. That is the moment I say, love me now.
Marguerite is the toast of Paris. She's the most dynamic actress you will see. But what's happening at this time in the play is she's very there's some awful things happening in her life. She's being blackmailed, and she feels that she's lost the man she loves. And so she's very somber. So to have to play this dynamic character and get that across to the audience, but yet she's really contained, you know? She's a dramatic extrovert that has to be contained in her emotions. So it's a sort of a challenge, you know? It's a contradiction there.
She's almost like France. Very extroverted.
There you go.
I mean, really, society, arts, all this has been contained by Robespierre and by the guillotine and by the revolution.
When I look at you, he is touching me. I would reach for him, but who can hold a memory? And love isn't everything. That moonlight on the bed will melt away.
When she does sing about Percy, or when she does sing about Armand, there's always this duality here of singing about France as well.
And vice versa, you know. I find that when Chauvelin is talking to me about, you know, France and everything, he's actually talking about what about our love for each other.
She is selfless and heroic, isn't she?
Yes, I think she is.
Perhaps the most heroic person in this show.
That's nice that you say that. I mean, you know, when you play a character like this, there's a part of you that becomes detached from the audience and the audience's perception. I mean, I have put myself into this woman's shoes, and there comes a point where I have made all these decisions and all these character choices, and then they become my own. And then it almost becomes like, well, I can't speak about how I am perceived. Do you know what I mean? As we do as human beings. If I would, you know, do you know what I'm saying?
I know exactly what you're saying. I know exactly what you're saying. Are you like Marguerite in any way?
I think I'm like Marguerite in a lot of ways, actually. The reason why I took this role in the first place, I was actually out in LA, and was not really interested in doing another musical. I just finished Victor Victoria, and I had done that for 2 years, and that was a marathon. And I was asked to do this role, and the only thing I had to refer to, I had not seen the musical, was the music of Frank Wildhorn. And that music I related to so much. I would just start crying when I would hear that music, because it did touch me so personally. So that made my decision. I had not seen the show. At that point, I had not even read the book. And then soon after that, I read the book. But it was the music and what the music was saying, the poetry of the music, that spoke to me. And I think the music, the poetry of the music does describe a lot of what Marguerite is about, and so therefore I guess it describes what I'm about if I was so touched by it.
She and I took the world like a stone. Come again, let the girl in your heart tumble free.
Bring your renegade heart home to me.
Rex Chauvelin is a very complicated character. There is good, there is evil there, but it's more having been caught up with Robespierre and the Reign of Terror, isn't it?
I think that's a wonderful point. It's one that not many people initially perceive. They go, boy, you're a great bad guy. And I don't think that any individual on this planet wakes up saying, I'm a bad guy today. Maybe as a result, maybe in anguish, they look at themselves in a past history as a bad guy. No one wakes up in the morning, shaves, looks in the mirror and goes, I'm a bad guy. We're 4 years into the French Revolution. I think there's a man that was caught up with all the ideals, the same, it was modeled after the American Revolution. 4 years later, it's a bloodbath. It's out of control. I think you're looking at a character historically that, like so many men and women, are caught up in a tremendous momentum pushing their lives along that they're almost powerless to fight against it. And I think that there is a great element of that in this character.
A lot of thought has gone into this production because when we see you from the outset, you're on one side, Percy's on the other. We get the distinct impression these are two different countries. And the common ground or the war is to be played out between you.
Exactly. And a woman in the middle. You know, it's also, it is a wonderful, it's a sweet and sour mix, this thing of, you've got Percy, Douglas Sills, who is wonderful, Danny Kaye-ish, Errol Flynn-ish combo there, that is able to bounce a really light soap bubble on his finger. My responsibility is a crashing reality. So where I don't really know many musicals that have these elements, but the interesting thing is it's a story of also of a woman and two men, that fabulous triangle, and they just happen to be at one of the most important periods in history. This could be played out in 1950 on Madison Avenue between a guy working for, you know, one giant corporation and another, and a secretary in between. You know, I mean, it's played out over and over again. It's one of the wonderful elements of this is the stakes are raised; they're that much higher. That's the fact of the historical moment.
It's almost as if it's the same character and different sides of the same personality.
Sometimes I feel that. Sometimes I feel that's a very astute point. I feel that if you combined Percy and Chauvelin together, you would have the complete man. You would have the Renaissance man. I think you've taken it in those old movies when you have the angel and the devil sitting right there, maybe on Marguerite's shoulders. That's kind of Jekyll and Hyde or whatever right there. It is. We are very distinctly separate issues of what is within every man.
We'll survive if we wait for the darkest hour, till we spring alive, then with claws of fire we devour like a falcon in the dive.
Falcon in the dive. It's this great image of your intent, and when you need to, you bare your talons to dig your hands or your claws in.
I actually wanted to have a cape. I said, can I get sort of a cape thing? I really did. They said, forget the cape. That was one of my more embarrassing moments at rehearsal, going, what about a sort of a falcon cape?
Really?
I said, this isn't
Did you really?
Seriously. You know, at least let me try
Go
it.
for it. Yeah.
Every kid wants to wear a cape. I used to tie a towel around my neck and jump on the sofa, you know, and that did it for me.
You haven't regretted this for one moment. I can tell you're loving.
You know what? It is really rare that my last assignment was 500 episodes of Sunset Boulevard, okay? I've lived in that world, and that was quite a swirling world. This is fascinating that I have yet to recognize anything past that fourth wall. I am so interested and concerned with what is going on right there. And Doug and Rachel are real craftsmen and dedicated to the thing. And the three of us are highly competitive. And we are looking to hone and polish every time we do that show. And I'm proud of the effort.